I'm back. Let's see here. I'm back. Check out my channel. Let's go here. Here. Make sure I'm going. Take Two Tuesday. There we go. Let me copy the link. Put it here. Come back here. Okay, what I got to do is got to make sure I keep that window up and make sure I record it, because there's a chance I might lose all that, right? Was anybody else recording my live stream? Yeah. And I'm wondering if it happened because I put Vice in the title. No, I think it was just because it was Vice. But I would love to test this, actually. Like, what would happen if I leave Vice out of the title and just continue on with the stream? Should we try it? Should we test the limits of YouTube? Yeah, I'm feeling like I should experiment here. Okay, hang on a second. Let's test how smart YouTube is. Okay, let's go here. Let's go there. Got to figure out where I ended off. But I'm going to leave Vice out of the title and see if YouTube catches on. Should we try it? The old stream is still there, by the way. Yeah, it's still there, and I'm going to keep it up because right after this is done, I'm going to record my own stream just in case it goes. But let's experiment with YouTube. Okay, this is where I left off. I'm going to do the exact same thing. Critique it like my fair use critique before. But this is just Take Two Tuesday. So if the same thing happens, I'll just restart it. And then we'll see if they actually get rid of my channel. Do another shooting pool. You think it was the shooting pool? Yeah, we could test that out too. You were about 1630 in the Vice. Yeah, I got it at 1648 right now. So yeah, this will be interesting. Okay, you ready, YouTube? Maybe I need to speak more in between. So let it run for like 30, 60 seconds and then say something. Maybe I let it run too much. Why would Vice trigger YouTube? Isn't YouTube hosting the Vice video? Well, good point, Peterson. But I think it's an algorithm. I don't think there's a human being doing this. I think that's impossible because I'm a tiny, tiny channel. So my guess is Vice has a deal with YouTube. Hey, if you see anything more than X amount of time, but we're going to find out. It's copyright, yeah, but on my main channel, BS Lewis, I play copyright material all the time, and I've never had that happen. What ends up happening is people use my video to monetize. So I make money for them. So they like it when I do it because it means more revenue for them. But this time they just shut it down, which is very strange. Like, I know what just happens when people stream the NBA. If you were to just take an NBA game that you've paid for and stream it live, within a few minutes, YouTube notices and will just cut it. So I think that's what happened here. So my guess is that if I play this again, the same thing will happen. But should I try it? I'm actually quite confident it's going to happen again. So maybe I shouldn't try it because it's just going to confirm what I already know. But what I can do is I can go here, which is one of the people who was on that panel. I can play her reaction and see if YouTube. Well, her thing is still up, so they can't do anything there. Yeah, with music, it tends to just it doesn't cut it. It just I have many videos where I'm making money for artists, but Vice seems like, oh, I know why. They're more likely to do it if you have under 1,000 subs, because they can't monetize. Oh no, they can still monetize it even if you're under 1,000. You just can't get any money. I don't know. What do you guys want me to do? Do you want me to keep playing the Vice and risk it, or do you want me to not risk it and just keep going with Sydney Watson's take on it? I was going to say that I've seen people review Vice videos exactly like you, but those were videos, not streams. Ah, you think that's a difference? Okay, well, let's see this. I'm going to try the Sydney Watson thing and see what happens.
Of course, it's frustrating because when we try to talk about it, we get shouted down, we get told to be quiet, we get spooken down too as well. So there's hostility there for plenty of women.
Let's try to make this an opportunity to speak.
You're literally a white woman from Australia. You live in a bubble and you're pissed that voices that have been silenced forever finally can be heard.
Who laughs like this? What are you, a Batman villain? Panel about feminism, and that video recently dropped. And if you haven't watched it yet, I will link it in the description, so as per usual, you can suffer in your own time. Fun fact, this is also the reason I was in New York, which led to me being on the flight where I became the meat in the human sandwich. And if you don't know what that situation is all about, I will link some things in the description box as well, because it kind of sounds like you too enjoy suffering. Anyway, if you've been here a while, you will know that I have done many panels and discussions and debates with all sorts of people, including feminists, about feminism. And most of these, most being the operative word, have been overall positive experiences. They're not ones that I look back on and want a memory hole and then bury in the backyard like a serial killer. I hadn't, however, worked with Vice before. So when they reached out and they said, do you want to participate on this panel? I genuinely thought, yep, that sounds like it could be cool. I also get asked a lot, like I mean a lot, why I even bother doing these things with these openly leftist outlets, because there is a chance that they will deceptively edit, there is a chance that they will do things maliciously, and people are right about that, and I will answer that.
See, what she should have done is what, I think she has some type of affiliation with this guy named Avi who went on Jim Jeffries' show, and Jim Jeffries really cut up stuff that he said, but he had a hidden camera that videotaped the whole interview, and then he exposed Jim Jeffries for what he did, and then Jim Jeffries, I think, lost his show. Was it because of that? Who knows? But that's what she should have done. She should have had a camera. Maybe she did do it. I don't know. We'll find out.
Question in this video a little bit later on, but I do want to note that of all of my experiences doing panels and discussions like this was one of the most unhelpful conversations I have ever participated in. Is this how they summon the spirits of oppression? No, just demons? Oh,
I like her. I think she's a lot like me.
More sense. I say this was unhelpful for so many reasons, and I have so many thoughts about this whole thing, but for the sake of brevity, I'm going to condense my thoughts, so sorry if I don't get to all the things in this video. Regrettably, a ride on this here hell gondola can only be so long. Hello, it is me, Sydney from the future. I forgot to add, and I think it's important, that before you once again board my hell gondola, although that being said, you are already aboard the hell gondola. Let's hear from today's sponsor, coffee brand.
No.
Currently, putting it mildly.
Sorry, coffee brand.
And I don't believe that they were there to exchange ideas or have a good faith conversation. And when I say that, I need you guys to understand that we filmed for maybe 4 or 5 hours on the day, maybe even more. I don't know, it's all blended together at this stage. So the 40+ minutes of Vice content that you see now has been distilled from hours of footage. So the majority of what these people had to say
I wonder if they have to sign like a waiver that they're not secretly recording this. Because I would have loved a secret recording of that 4 or 5 hours.
Cut, and they still come out at the end looking unbelievably not nice. So I want you to think about how bad that was on the day. Ugh. So before I even got to New York, I sat down and watched the same panel on feminism that Vice did a couple years ago. And my takeaway from that was everybody on that panel was respectful, they were very polite, and the conversation, even if I didn't agree with some of the things that were being said, was a good conversation overall. And I think, if I'm being honest, that kind of set the tone for my expectations of my panel. You know, I guess I genuinely and maybe
This sweater, this jacket, whatever, it looks so comfortable. I gotta get one of those.
Thought, great, this is what Vice is going to try to do again. I was deeply and inherently incorrect. For those of you who follow me on Twitter particularly, you'll know that I can be a bit spicy. And by spicy, I mean the overlord of hell. But in these real life situations, and especially with regard to this panel, I don't go into them expecting a smackdown. I wanted to listen and be respectful and have a conversation. And I say that not expecting to have my mind changed necessarily, but I'm always open and happy to have
but with a lot of people, you're not going to get a respectful conversation. They just want to be listened to and empathized with. They just want to feel what I'm feeling. Shut up and listen to my life experience.
A discussion. A fruitful discussion. Not whatever the hell this was.
There's a lot of pretty privilege in what you're saying, and that you're white and you present.
Do you think I'm pretty? Thank you.
I think that you present in a way that beauty standards have accepted.
If we're going to talk about pretty privilege, can I just note how Vice did me so dirty with this thumbnail? Like, who signed off on this? If you're gonna use me in a thumbnail, I insist you use a face.
Yeah, but conservatives do that all the time too. Like they take really ugly pictures of Hillary and Clinton and make her just look way worse than she really is.
Photo. Like the internet wants. Only I can post a squish face. The disrespect.
It is like such conservative thinking to say, like, I don't understand, explain it to me, versus just saying, I don't understand and let me respect what you are saying.
Drugs are bad.
So people have talked about equity instead, which is instead of sameness, it's fairness. And this would mean that we remove systemic barriers to engage in society.
It's like assuming that we all want to be capitalist.
The key to life is to realize that you're a loser and be okay with it. On some things in life, you will be a loser, and you have to say, I am a loser in this area of life, and be okay with it. This whole idea of equity, of saying, okay, I'm a loser, so lift me up by the wings I have, so I can appear like a winner like you. No, that has to go away. Just say, I'm a loser. I'm a loser in many things. What's that, Myron? Name one thing I'm a loser at? I'll get back to you on that.
Babies.
I'm saying that if you don't have the mindset you can even achieve it, you're never going to even try. So it's
But
never
achieve what? Like, what are we talking about?
Achieve
Because I
a
feel like you
fair
projected
world.
this like
No,
capitalist
achieve-
ideology on every woman.
It's like there are the barriers, right, that we constantly ignore that are very much systemic and microaggressive, right? We see them and experience them every day.
Like what? So I'm thinking male versus female.
But my feminism includes ability, it includes race.
I think women want to sleep around and not have any consequence for it.
Hell yeah, we do.
Says the biological guy. Women want to sleep around and have no consequence for it. And the one woman on the panel who was born a man says, hell yeah. Woo. I'm verklempt. I need some oxygen here, Myron.
Yeah, instead of, taking personal accountability and being on birth control, they just want to like do whatever they want.
You say this like it's a bad thing.
Yeah.
It almost sounds like
I think this is just the face of me being done. I don't know about the rest of you, but I walked away from this panel on the day.
By the way, someone asked, I made the comment the other day, how some women might use abortion as a form of birth control, and someone in the comment section said, "How dare you say that? What's your evidence of that?" Well, in the live stream that I can't, or the video I can't play because of YouTube, said, made a good point. 40% of all abortions are repeat abortions. So near half of women have had more than one abortion, which is evidence that points to a big chunk of women do, in fact, use abortion as a form of birth control. Abortion, by definition, is controlling birth or not.
The entire state of not only conversation has regressed, but ideology. Because a lot of the views that were being espoused are so far removed from reality, at least from my perspective, that I simply cannot find common ground with these people. Not enough to have a meaningful conversation, and certainly not enough to work towards the same imperatives and initiatives, because
I get that sentiment, especially when I'm talking to Christians or Muslims, that the way I see the world and the way they see the world is so different. The divide is so vast that, like, is there even a chance of having a conversation? And I say yes, there's always a chance. But the key is you have to resort to just asking questions, short, simple questions. And don't say anything other than ask questions.
What are you doing? I did mention this at the end of the Vice video, but I think this is a good representation of why feminism is dying. It has been cannibalized by leftism, the transgender movement, and I'll add here intersectionalism.
Yes.
I don't know if that's a word. Intersectionality. Which
yes, and you saw this before on the last live stream I did a few moments ago. It's like, I can't speak as a woman, but I can speak as a black woman. That's intersectionality to a T. My feminism includes disability. That's intersectionality.
explains why feminists on the panel couldn't stick to the topics surrounding feminism, but instead endlessly diverted the conversation towards completely irrelevant points. Most of which, like I said, got cut because if they'd kept them, no one would know what the heck was going on. This was one of my biggest issues with this panel. It didn't feel like a discussion about feminism and female issues, it felt like a struggle session. Which is why in the final edit, about 14 minutes in, I make these comments.
I don't understand how we're getting so off topic. This is about feminism, feminism today, whereas everybody wants to make this about their individual, here are all the multitude of other things that factor into my person. Great, this is about feminism, it's about womanhood. I understand that all of you have your own individual experiences and the other things that feed into you as a person, that's perfectly fine. But this is where intersectionality falls off the planet and loses, I would argue, probably the vast majority of people, including me.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And when I made predictions for 2023 on my main channel, I really do think the pendulum now is swinging back to more reasonableness because of all the mocking and ridicule that you'll see, even on TikTok, definitely on YouTube, of the far left-wing intersectionality, all this stuff. Like, you are being mocked and ridiculed. You are being laughed at by a lot of people. And you're losing them. And I think I saw a clip of Vosh even admitting this, like the far left is doing a lot of damage in how they're presenting themselves with this feel sorry for mentality. You have to get to the point where you can look at society and understand that most people don't care anything about you and be okay with it. And until that day, demanding that people love you is not going to work. It's going to push people even further away from you.
Me. I'm not even a feminist. I don't give a crap about feminists arguing amongst themselves about who's the most victimized. But this is annoying to listen to. I honestly I don't understand anything anybody's even trying to get at.
And because, like I mentioned, so much of the original footage was cut, my statement here might seem a little out of place, but for context, at the time, there was so much bickering happening.
By the way, this is Sydney Watson. I just found her recently because of this Vice debate, conversation, whatever.
People were going on irrelevant tangents about unrelated things. Jingle Jangles over here had told us at length about her parents being...
She looks like, what was the name of that Palestinian leader that got murdered? He always had these things on his chest. Almost like some type of military garb.
Refugees. She also went on a bizarre rant asking us why we aren't discussing other countries and other countries' issues on this panel. The panel
She hates America. She hates America. Why can't we speak of other countries? America sucks.
Were fixated on their own personal struggles, intersectionality, and calling attention to their race or disability or whatever. So many sentences were started with, as a, fill the blank.
Yeah.
It was not terrific. I'm not a fan. I do have to admit it is a little bit weird being condescended to by a room full of people who think that they're the protagonist in a young adult fiction novel. Victimization. The Jingle Jangle story.
Yeah, victimization. This is the theme song for intersectionality.
I just remembered this and I'm gonna add it in. We had to raise our hands about halfway through.
That was perfect timing. I didn't know that was coming.
Maybe not, maybe earlier than that. We had to raise our hands at some stage because the conversation was so chaotic and because the talking over top of each other was so chaotic that we had to raise our hands to be called upon to speak.
Oh.
So there is that too. So eventually we arrived at the transgender portion of the conversation. Because there's always a transgender portion. Can't have feminism without some girl dick. I'm sorry, that is not funny.
I don't get it. Girl dig? What does that mean?
Being said, there were 2 trans people on this panel. The one sitting next to me is called Jordan, and while we didn't agree on plenty of things, Jordan was incredibly respectful and very kind.
Yes, Jordan was probably the one of the most articulate. She was the big one with the nose piercing.
The other trans person is called Eli Ehrlich, who also tweeted that those of us on the right on this panel are fascists. It's a shame all that HRT can't lead to some originality. What's important here is that Eli has a very colored history.
And remember, Eli was the one who said something like, hell yeah, we want to have sex without consequences or something like that, responsibility.
Some extremely serious allegations littered throughout, and I will say that I did call some of these things out to Eli's face during the panel, but unfortunately they didn't make the final cut. I wonder why. They actually asked me about my comments at the end, and I was just like, do you not know who you invite to your own studio? Do you have access to an internet? Yeah, I mean, we might be fascists, but at least we don't...
Dogs like food that's moist and meaty.
I'm gonna have to bleep that out. Now, the majority of the trans conversation did not make it to the final cut. And I don't actually blame them for that because... But we did get onto the conversation of biological males playing against women in female sports.
I'm against it. My administration is against it. I don't care if it causes some people to be very, very, very sad. I don't know. I got a rule of thumb. If you have a penis, you play for the men's, and a testicles, you play for men's sports, and if you don't, women. Sure, there's a few intersex people in there, but just use that general rule. You'll only make less than 1% of the population cry.
Because Pearl was, or still was, I don't know. Because Pearl has been, or potentially still is, a semi-pro athlete. This was a conversation that was particularly sensitive for her, and she did have a lot to say about the matter.
Yeah, she was the redhead. Pearl is this woman here. She's 6 feet tall. She's a semi-pro basketball and volleyball player, apparently. And so she's very passionate about the issue of men not being allowed, biological males being allowed in biological female sports.
I'm sorry that I keep inserting all these random little notes, but I'm remembering things as I'm talking. And there was one particularly humorous moment for me where Eli and I were backing and forthing about the sports thing. And I basically said, you don't play at the same level that Pearl does. You don't play remotely similarly to what Pearl is doing. And Eli tried to say that the high level of archery that Eli participates in is comparable to what Pearl does.
Would you have a problem with Tiny Tim playing on the girls' team because he can't make the cut on the boys' team? Yes. Tiny Tim can cry.
Like, what are you talking about? It doesn't make any sense. Oh my goodness. Okay. I'm good. I'm good. I don't know. There's just kind of something intolerable about this social thing that we're doing where we allow non-biological women to shoot down the lived experiences of biological females and then tell us that it's transphobia when we tell them that what they're saying is nonsense.
Excellent point. It's like, but what about the fairness and the feelings and the life experience of the transgender person? What about the life experience and the feelings of the cis heterosexual cis person? Why is the feelings and life experience of them more important than all the women? I mean, when I say woman, I mean adult female. Okay, that's my definition. So whenever you hear me, because I don't want to have to keep saying biological over and over again. When you hear me say the word woman, I mean biological female. Okay, that's my definition. You can disagree with it, but at least you'll understand me. Actually, you probably won't understand me because some of you might you hear these words and it just makes you mad, and so you'll never understand.
I also feel like there's a joke in here about mansplaining, but I am not going to walk that path because I don't want to get banned. So back to the point, apparently talking about transgender women in female sports was a very sore spot for the feminists on the panel, which is just really amusing in and of itself for a multitude of reasons. But until this point, they had been quite aggressive, and on several occasions I had said to them, there's no need to be this aggressive. Please stop. It's always the smallest ones who are the angriest. Like, what, is the air colder down there? What's going on? So as Pearl was relaying her experience...
You know, there's something to that. Not that the air is colder down there or whatever, but have you guys noticed a pattern? I've noticed a pattern on, and maybe this pattern is not real and it's just in my head, like I see 11:11 on the clock all the time. But I think there's a correlation between your ideas on transgenderism and feminism and a lot of these topics and your weight and your degree of ugliness. And I'm just being honest, I'm seeing that correlation. That the heavier your body weight and what society would deem as the uglier you are, the more likely your ideas on all these topics are going to align. Am I wrong? Have you guys noticed that too? Like if you, for example, let me do this. I might be proven wrong here, so, but we'll see. Libs of TikTok. They have a channel. I'm going to bring it up here. Okay, I'm going to make a prediction here that most of these libs on TikTok, they're going to say the craziest things. We're going to be like 80-90% female and 80 to 90% grossly obese. Okay, I haven't looked at this in a while. Let's see if... Oh, I'm proven wrong. Number one, here's what is this?
What's all a favor, society a favor, and stop breaking...
Okay, I'm wrong. What?
Please.
I'm 0 for 1. Maybe I won't see anything here. I want to see interviews. That's a picture. Oh, I'm 0 for 2.
Had these awful, unexplained.
This is good. Real time being proven wrong.
And I really, really hope.
Okay, 0 for 2. I don't know what that is. 0 for 3. Okay, no, I got to get myself a half here.
And the students all call me Coach Kelly.
Well, I'm saying this is a biological male, but is it? Yeah. But grossly overweight. So actually, I'm right on this one.
I got a little educator hot tip for you.
I'm 2 for 4.
Comments like this, so I'm here to respond. We've partnered with the wide.
I think I'm 3 for 5.
Racism. Anti-fatness is rooted in anti-black.
4 for 6. Oh, this is
We're at this point. So the less.
I don't know if we count this. This is a journalist just being caught saying stuff.
I should probably address this comment. I identify.
Okay, I'm going to say I'm wrong on that one. So I'm 4 for 7.
Me. Horrified looks from everyone in the room. All eyes on.
I'm going to say I'm wrong on this one. 4 for 8.
About why it's all white women. In Portland, Oregon, one of the most liberal cities in the country.
Although this is a woman. So maybe half marks? Oh my, what is this? I guess I'm wrong on this one. This is a classroom, by the way. Classroom door in Howard County. Yeah.
Is a preference. Not dating people who
I think I'm right on this one. Right on this one.
It's 45th.
Wrong on this one.
Between black,
Although no, half marks, severely obese.
Black people have the moral high ground.
This is so rude of me, right? I'm wrong on this one. Oof. Right on this one.
Big buckets of reasons.
Okay, I better stop this. I'm going to get in trouble. Big trouble.
As a semi-pro athlete, the 3 horsemen of the apocalypse decided yet again to attack her for what she was saying.
Even if I have years more of training. And so it's like you're taking away the little opportunity that we're given and we all work so hard for, and you're just giving it back to biological guys. It's like this will be the end of women's sports.
Have you tried confidence?
Eli, hold on, Minnie.
Sorry,
Eli.
confidence can't make me bench what a guy benches.
Have you tried confidence? I mean, this is why I think the far left on these topics are losing big time. And I still am a little bit upset at Rationally Rules for apologizing and giving in to the far left on that video we made a long time ago. No, just say, I am willing to make a small percentage of the population horribly sad and depressed to save women's sports. That's all you have to say. Just come out and give them what they want. They want you to be a big meanie, so be a big meanie. But what you're doing is you're saving women's sports. And for those of you who don't understand, there is absolutely in any sport that's a real sport, not like tackle chess or anything like that. Women are like high school boys. The elite women are like high school boys level. Like, it's not even close of the sheer dominance men have over women in sports. You take the best runner that's a woman, the best basketball player that's a woman, and compare them to the best man. Not even close. So far apart. Take the average woman, the average man. Not even close. So far apart. But if you take the worst man and the best woman, yeah, then you're going to see some parity. Tackle chess. Yeah, I know. It's not a real sport.
Can't make me
you guys
6'7".
are so hostile. She's sharing her
And
experience
confidence can't make
in
me
a
6'7".
specific
No, she's
field.
sharing
And
I'd have to go.
No, she's
Yeah, see, when she shares her lived experience, it's called misogyny, transphobia. We don't listen to those voices. We don't ask her to explain herself. We just respect her opinion, thank her, and move on, right? Oh, the hypocrisy is huge.
She's a woman who's had an experience.
It's one at a time.
You guys are so obsessed with your own experiences and your own existence, and yet when a woman is sitting here telling you, I feel as though this is unfair and this is compromising and this situation is not helping women, you guys are like, meh, meh, meh. But when you're like, I'm a black person that did this, 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 and this, then it's valid and fair and viable.
They cut the end of my statement here, which is actually something that I think they've done a lot. Initially, I was like, yeah, I think this is fairly good editing, but watching this back several times, I see now that they're cutting what I'm saying mid-sentence, or they're cutting out the bulk of my point, which is generally unhelpful. You can hear the cuts based on where I'm taking a breath. Human being.
Behemoth asks, is the host trans? Yeah, I wasn't sure either. My daughter asked me the same thing. I don't know.
Confirmed. What these people did to Pearl, and also me in a clip that I will show you very soon, is something that I notice a lot with progressives. And it's basically where they structure their view of themselves with the labels that they use to describe themselves. Basically, they use these labels to describe the many, many ways that they are victimized by society, or the way...
Yeah, that's how they get their hope, meaning, and purpose, is through victimization. Because... here's my psychologizing, because the way they were raised, this is why the far left needs the far right sometimes, that there is value in traditions and conservatism when it comes to identity and who you are. And if you are raised in a way you don't know who you are, that you don't have any family traditions at all, I am so-and-so, I am Jill Smith, or I am Joe Smith, and in our family, this is how we did things. This is our traditions. These are our customs. This is what makes who I am. If you don't have any of that, then you start grasping identities. This is who I am. I am a black person. I am a transgender person. I am a gay person. Whatever it is. To find community, a desperate way to find community based on things that totally out of your control, right?
That their life is very challenging. On the flip side, however, if you are somebody who responds in kind and tries to tell them about an experience that you have had, they use those same labels that they don't like, to shoot you down and tell you that your opinion doesn't count or your experience is invalid. And they do that, which you've actually seen in this panel already, by telling you that you're privileged, or that you're white, or that you're pretty, or that you're skinny, or that you're tall, or whatever thing they don't like, whatever thing denotes that your life is easier than theirs. Like I mentioned, I got my own flavor of this when Eli and I were backing and forth.
Yeah, your life is easier than theirs. Why are the suicide rates of middle-aged white men the highest? Is that a reflection that their life is easier? I think what I said is true, right? Like, what if middle-aged white men, like myself, cried oppression and used suicide rates as a way to guilt-tripping the rest of society to feel sorry for them? What would you say? You'd probably go, but. I'm speaking to the far left right now. But historically, you've had everything. Doesn't seem to help, does it? If middle-aged white men commit suicide at high rates, maybe you don't want the power. Maybe that will end up killing you.
Thing about a series of trans topics, most of which you will not see in the final edit because they have cut it out, which in a way makes it look like I'm responding to something reasonably innocuous, and what the moderator says doesn't fit with the context, but here's the clip anyway.
Agrees that trans women who have been on hormones for between 1 and 3 years, depending on the organization, have the same competitive abilities.
The study that you're referencing had like 7 people participated.
That's misinformation, by the way.
Don't let the facts get in the way.
several different studies. I'm a trans woman and a researcher.
It's getting personal. I don't want it to be
personal. A lot of us
personal.
live in this space where we're told that our opinions don't count because they're not the right kind of opinions, and we're constantly shouted over and talked over regardless of what we look like, because there's one group in society that basically takes precedence, and it's frustrating. So yeah, of course, it's frustrating because when we try to talk about it, we get shouted down, we get told to be quiet, we get spoken down too as well. So there's hostility there for plenty of women.
Let's try to make this an opportunity to speak.
You're literally a white woman from Australia. You live in a bubble and you're pissed that voices that have been silenced forever finally can be heard.
That's why they have the voice, because they speak up.
Do you know how to prove a point while someone's making a point? You just did. Congratulations. You guys are gonna love this. I found you a live action remake.
Yeah, and it's women like this who give, I think, the far left a really bad name. It's like, no, you deserve to be silenced because of your history.
That's why they have the voice, because they speak up.
Do you know how to prove a point while someone's making a point? You just did. Congratulations. You guys are gonna love this. I found you a live action remake of this interaction between Jingle Jangles and me.
Forget it!
Shut the fuck up.
It's sort of funny because once this video went live, Hassan Piker, who just doesn't actually make content, just reacts to things, reacted to this video, and around this same time also told me to shut the F up and called me a baby.
And we're constantly shouted over.
Yeah, look. Now she's the victim. Shut the f up, you f***ing baby. You f***ing...
Yeah, okay, no, this is a great example, and you see this often. This has actually happened to me. People react to me in this manner. Do you think for 1 second this helps you to act this way? Listen how he's going to act.
Baby, you cry baby. Meh, 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 meh. We're being shouted over. It's like, what? You just got owned and you had no counter. So then you have to turn around and be like, look at us. We're getting shouted. Like, dude, you've been running. You've been running the gamut.
But maybe his goal is not to persuade people. Maybe his goal is just for the people who think like him, just to make them feel good.
Okay, you've been running train this entire time alongside Pearly. And the moment that you get countered out the wazoo, you're like, yeah, it's so f***ed up. Dumbass.
How do you say stop or stop it in French?
Eli also tweeted about this, saying that I made false claims, was corrected, and then instead of deflecting, I changed the topic.
What? Instead of deflecting, she completely changed the subject? Instead of deflecting, isn't deflecting changing the topic? Instead of deflecting, she completely... I think Eli needs to go back to school.
If I was changing the topic, wouldn't that be deflecting?
Yeah.
Do you know how words work? Like, you also know that this has been edited, so, I mean, like, congratulations that you're so crazy that even the leftist outlet has to edit you back to make you look less crazy? I hate to break it to you, but this is not the own you think it is. And frankly, I'm disappointed. My eyeballs got sore. One of the last things I want to add here is how disappointed I am that it's so socially acceptable to shut us down because we're white. I know some people will disagree with me on that, and that's fine, you're entitled to your opinion, but I personally think it's gross, and I don't think there's an...
Amen. It is gross to shut someone down based on their skin shade. And for those of you listening who lean far left, I appeal to you to actually tell me what being white is. Is it a skin shade? I asked this of that CRT guy, and he did not like it. Aaron does not like that question. What is white? Because it's complicated. It's sort of like, what is a woman, right?
Excuse for it. So with that all said, here are some final thoughts about this whole thing. I didn't get to say a lot of what I wanted on the day itself. The bulk of what I did say, I feel like has been edited out, and the things that have been kept, I guess I wish I had articulated better, and that actually goes for the things they did and didn't include. But you know...
Boris makes a good comment. This is my number one stance against conservative pundits, not pundits, and defenders in social media. They attack the less rational of the other side, but it happens left to right as well. But the thing is, it's it's Vice, which is a big channel. How many? 16.5 million subscribers. This video had 1 million views in only 13 days. What exactly is the percent representation of these crazy people? I don't know, but I think it's over 10%. And once you got like a population of 10% of people believing these crazy ideas, I think it's fair game.
So that's definitely the nature of doing things live and unscripted, particularly in this kind of a setting. Towards the end of filming, I freely admit I was definitely starting to lose it, and there's a couple reasons for that, but two of them, one, because we'd been filming for a long time, and also because I was hungry. So I definitely wish that I had called out some of the things that had been said about the beauty standards, because some of them were just like, duh.
Yeah, beauty standards. Like what? Like I'm a naturalist. I think we evolved via common ancestor. I think that we as mammals have this idea of beauty in terms of reproduction. And so when someone looks unhealthy, you're less likely to mate with that person, whether man or female, man or male, male or woman, male or female. It's so silly. You got to be precise in this language nowadays. And so I can objectively, well, let's leave the word objectively out. I can say that there are women and men on this planet that most men and most women on this planet would say are ugly. They won't say it out loud because that would be cruel, right? But they're thinking it. They're looking at a person and saying, not attractive, no coitus for you. Unless both parties are really drunk. That's why alcohol was invented, so ugly people could have coitus. But there's an evolutionary explanation for this. So when you see this whole movement, do I call it a movement? This idea of got to have really obese people. In fact, I saw this on Twitter today. Where is it? Really obese people as models. It's not going to work. You're not going to oh, here it is. You're not going to overdo millions of years of evolution and say in any way that this is attractive. This is ugly. This is less ugly. And this is very nice. Very, very nice. Pretty good. Now, of course, culture changes. And back in the 18th century, 17th century, plump was a little better. But not this. And so it's the far left, I think, that is like applauding these things, not the far right. But this is not only unhealthy, it's just shamefully unhealthy.
I wish that I had said something about the health at every size movement, because that's something that you guys know I feel quite strongly about. They called on me at the end there because I wasn't contributing, because I was completely starting to lose it from hunger and just filming for so long and whatnot. And what I ended up saying was just like, not useful. Glad they didn't include it. Let's just not. Overall, this experience taught me—
I'm laughing at Jack Grin in the comments.
how much conversation has regressed. It taught me that conversation is incredibly challenging and will likely get more challenging as things progress. It's sort of funny because 2022 was a fairly pivotal year for me in terms of some of my viewpoints and opinions, which had shifted. And some of those opinions do relate to feminism based on some of the experiences that I've had. So I actually went into this feeling a little bit warmer towards some ideas than I'd ever been before. And I left feeling like everyone is completely insane. Funnily enough, I would actually be very open to having a conversation with any other kind of feminist and basically trying to do this sort of thing, have a panel discussion.
Yeah, and getting back to what this person in the live stream chat said about, it's not good for me to review a person reviewing crazy people. The normal ones, like people who lean slightly left of center or whatever, the normal ones, they really don't want to come on and talk to me because we'll just end up agreeing most of the time anyhow. And what fun is that, I guess? So maybe it's just a matter of having fun and that some people on the far left are just so easy to make fun of. Just like some people on the far right are easy to make fun of. Although for a lot of times when it comes to the far right, it's not making fun of them. It's like they need to be locked up type of thing. They're dangerous. Well, I guess the far right says that about the far left. They're dangerous too, I guess. Teaching our kindergarten kids CRT. Before you know it, everybody will be trans. That sort of thing. Which is the type of alarmism I'm against. Because I don't think it's going to happen. Just like I don't think Nazis are going to take over the United States. Chad says, I disagree with you almost all the time, Doug. That's good. I like that. Let me open the room up for call-ins. Maybe some reasonable people who lean left of center will call in and say something they disagree with me about. Let's go over there. We'll look at infinity. It was a skewed panel if the host was trans. Well, you can be trans and still be objective, right? Maybe. Yeah, she's Australian, Andy. But she's also American, I think. By the way, 1 month from today, I'll be able to sing, I'm proud to be an American, 'cause at least I know I'm free. Not like those Canadians who want to lock up Jordan Peterson for merely being Jordan Peterson.
What the shit?
If you're a crazy left-winger, call in. And if you're a not crazy left-winger, you can call in. Do I want crazy? Yeah, if you're a crazy right-winger, call in, I guess. Do I want non-crazy right people? They're the most boring. I guess if you're a farmer, you can call in. In fact, some person asked me the other day, I keep saying that the left needs the right and the right needs the left. And this one person said, why? Why do we need the right? And one of my poker buddies sent me a nice sketch. See if I can find it here. But feel free to call in while I'm looking. Oh yeah, here it is. Yeah. This is funny.
Love me, love me.
This is the theme. That's the theme song for the far left. This is why liberals need conservatives.
I'm going home for Christmas tomorrow, going back to the Midwest, the good part of the country, and my family's all like farmers and well drillers. My family lives in like the type of small town that still thinks Dippin' Dots are the ice cream of the future, you know? They're like, if the Democrats gave us Dippin' Dots, we wouldn't need fentanyl. Oh, we love mocking middle America, don't we, New York? Don't we? They're so fucking stupid, aren't they? They also grow all your food, don't they, you little fuckers, don't they? You little soft-handed liberal scum. You'd bleed if you looked at a shovel, you little cunts, wouldn't you? You don't do a single useful thing for the planet, you little fuckers, isn't that true? You'd die in a day without Republicans, wouldn't you? Yeah. You can't eat a podcast, can you? Yeah. No protein in slam poetry, is there? Yeah. I don't agree with Republicans, but good luck finding a woke plumber. Good luck finding a 50-year-old guy with his ass hanging out who's like, free Britney.
That's hilarious. If a far left liberal looks at a shovel, their hands bleed. Good luck eating a podcast. This is Jeffrey Asmus. Only 16.4 subs, K subs. Good job, Jeffrey. That was funny. That's why you Democrats need Republicans. They feed you. Literally. Oh, good. Boris has to separate me. Even though Pine Creek says he's a conservative, his overall views deviate from the strongest American conservative party. Jordan Peterson is a complete waste. Oh, that you can tell, Chad, that you're speaking out of emotion, not rationality when you say that. Just read your own sentence back to yourself slowly. Jordan Peterson is a complete waste. You know in your emotional left-winging heart that is false. Complete waste? I bet you I could find things that Jordan Peterson has said that you yourself agree with. In fact, I would love to trap you with that someday. Not today, but I'll hide the fact I'm talking about Jordan Peterson, and I'll say, make it sound like some left-leaning guy said this. Oh, by the way, you know Jordan Peterson said that? Oh, that'd be a great trap. You should review Kevin Samuel sometime. Okay. Emotions are a thing. Yes, emotions are a big thing. They're great when it comes to watching the Lion King musical. They're great when going down a roller coaster. They're not great when it comes to making rulings and judgments in the court of law. Can I get an amen? Jordan Peterson has helped many people change their lives for the better. Is that a waste? Exactly, Matt. Matt, don't get Chad started. I bet you Jordan Peterson has literally saved more literal lives than Chad will ever do. But at the same time, he's a complete waste. Come on, Chad. Ask for forgiveness. I'm like the Roman Catholic priest. Give your pence, give me some money, and then I'll forgive you for your sins. Oh, even Jordan Peterson is correct twice a day, says Chad. Okay, this is great. A complete waste, but right twice a day. I save lives every day. Oh, are you a medical person? Then I might take that back. Are you a heart surgeon? The key to a good long life is having a clean room. Yes, Behemoth. It's amazing how many people, how that irks them. Having a clean room irks you, or being told to clean your room irks you. Because I think it irks a lot of people. Apparently, I've saved some lives too. Dan the Meek, I would suggest the best way to make informed voting decisions is find two politicians who disagree and listen to both. I will agree that Jordan Peterson saved more lives than ivermectin. Yeah, that's funny. I'm not so sure about that, but that's funny. Jordan Peterson has brought many sad young men to belief in theism and clean rooms and being a lobster. And being a lobster? No, saying clean your room is profound irks me. Clean your room is profound. Telling people to clean their room is profound because it represents a person who cares about their environment. Don't you want to save the environment, Chad? It starts in your room. That's good. I like that. Half my brain tied behind my back just to make it fair. Yeah, I can. Yeah, Dan, I understand. With local politics, it's tough. But even local politics has debates, right? Well, why is it that some people are so irked about Jordan Peterson telling them to clean their room? I don't get it. I understand the profound thing, Chad, but what I don't like about Jordan Peterson is he's too emotional for me. Like I'm more of a stoic in demeanor, not in philosophy, but in demeanor. I'm more of a stoic type guy. So whenever I see a grown man cry, I kind of like, what are you crying about? Shake it off. Suck that tear back in your eyeball. Bottle it all up inside. And then let it explode when you're going down a roller coaster at Legoland. Yeah, his voice is not the best. But the room's open. I don't know why nobody's calling in. Tagged on it's pinned at the top. I know there's so many people who disagree with me on so many different things, and here I give them an opportunity to call in, and then they don't call in. Oh, really, Matt? You think Jordan Peterson acts emotional? I find that hard to believe. Finally, we got a caller. Hey! Do I know you?
Yeah, I called in before a couple months ago.
Yeah, because you look familiar to me.
Yeah. My hair's a little different, so maybe.
I think you got your tab open in the background.
Yeah, hold on. Better?
Yeah, that solves the problem.
Okay, sorry about that.
Were you the person with a parent who you wanted me to talk to or something?
No, it was my brother-in-law.
Your brother-in-law, right.
Yeah, he's like the super far right. Well, and I can't stay too long. I'm just on my break, but I I remember during that last call, I mentioned that I thought you should start a political channel. And I just wanted to kind of give you my thoughts because I'm a little bit disappointed so far. I mean, not that I don't always enjoy a little bit of Pine Creek, but
what are you disappointed in?
So my thoughts were like, I was interested in seeing this because I was interested in talking to you or hearing your defense of conservative ideas the way that I would expect to hear Christians try and defend their ideas on your channel. And you would
expect me to do it the same way as them?
Well, not exactly, but I just kind of, it would have been nice to hear more apologetics from you, I guess, for conservative ideas.
Oh, well,
versus like
you're talking about like
laughing and poking fun at libs that it has been so far.
Oh, okay. Well, the thing is, I haven't really made any claims about conservatism or anything, and I think it's really hard to define.
And that's the point, is like it's kind of a useless channel so far because you haven't really made any statements. Like you're not really saying.
Well, it's
anything.
a reaction channel.
Liberals are stupid.
It's exactly the same thing I do on my theistic channel. Like I'll play a clip of an apologist, and I'll make sometimes funny comments, sometimes critique-ish type.
But
comments.
Right now, like the woman that you're talking about.
Which woman?
She's someone that you agree with, right?
Oh, this last
you're
woman.
not like trying to steelman the feminists or the people that were.
Yeah, I played her because
had positions that you were disagreeing.
I played her because I couldn't play the Vice one because you two. I don't know if you came late, but I started playing.
No, I saw that.
Yeah, and then so I had. Well, what am I going to do now? So then I just played her.
Well, it was just I wanted to give you my thoughts because that's kind of like what I was hoping to get from you was like convince me that.
Okay, well let's pick an issue. Let's pick an issue, a specific issue, and then I'll give you my thoughts. I'll try to be an apologist.
One that I heard you say that particularly rubs me the wrong way was the school lunch program, because that's one that I just like. Okay, America claims to be pro-family, pro-child. Mm-hmm. How could anyone be against lunch programs or food programs?
Did I say I was against that?
Schools? I believe I heard you say that.
No, I'm not against
Do you support free lunch programs in schools?
Yeah, I think for those who need it, yes, but for those who don't, no.
Well, how do you make that determination?
Well, in the school district my son's in, they actually, I think, ask for proof of income in order to get free lunch from the parents. So you have to be under a certain level, income level.
Well, and I admit to a lot of ignorance, even on my part, because
okay, so we agreed on that. Pick a different issue then.
Kids, I'm not very okay. School housing right now, that's a big one. That whatever we're doing right now is not working because. You brought up the equity equality chart.
Yeah.
So for the people who are useless to society, let's say they're a burden on society.
Yeah.
They're drug addicts. They're sick all the time. They need food assistance. They need housing assistance. What is the bare minimum that we as a society afford to them?
Just
and like
exactly
at what
what
point?
You said. I don't think they should go hungry. I don't think they should be left to die. So I think we're agreed there too.
So you're a housing first? You're
I think if people
an advocate for
if people are desperate and they want a house and they are living on the streets, I think that should be afforded to them. I'm just putting this up so people see the difference between equality and equity. That this is equality, this is equity. So I'm not for letting people die in the streets, no.
Okay.
But I will say that, I'm trying to help you find an area of disagreement. I will say though, it's okay to shame people for having kids that they can't afford.
In what way would you suggest that shaming take place?
By
like what form of social
not legally,
social shame should
not legally, but just for the form that should take place is guys like me on the internet saying you should feel a little bit bad that you live in poverty and you let someone reach climax inside you. You should feel a little bit bad about that. So that's one way society could help cause that change.
So as far as like detriments to society, we agree that people having too many kids, creating too much of a burden in society, that is not a good thing. But what about like a couple weeks ago?
Hang on. I don't know if I agree with that fully. Let's say you're a billionaire and you're not.
That's exactly where I was going.
Yeah, if you're a billionaire and you can afford to have 20 kids and take care of them, give them the best options of education and healthcare and all that, I actually don't see a problem with that.
Yeah. Well, and
do you?
I guess I'm just not in the right headspace to try and have this conversation. I just wanted to let you know, like, my general vibe so far has been kind of disappointed. I think I'm going to stick to your other channel for the most part, just because
but you haven't really,
like, you're triggering the libs and it's working, and it's like not fun anymore.
Well, it's not.
I mean, I hate to put it that way, but it's like,
well, it's
when,
not
when
fun.
you're on, listen, let me explain. When you're on your Pine Creek channel, it's fun to hear you scoff and people trying to explain that hell is a real consequence and that you're going there and it's an important thing that you should consider. And it's funny to hear you scoff at them and try and get them to see how silly that is. But when you're talking about like billionaires that are, so rich, but we still have kids that are like going hungry and, don't have homes. I don't know. I just feel like our priorities are really messed up as a country, and you kind of just dismiss all of the solutions that
I don't dismiss. I don't dismiss it, but I'm saying that there's a more of a fundamental cause that starts in the home, starts grassroots level. And so I'm more of a bottom, like, I'm consistent. If you watch my religious channel, you might have heard me say this, I like to start bottom up, not top down, right? Have you ever heard me say that? Like, so I very rarely want to talk about, does a God exist? No, I want to talk about Jesus. I want to talk about Muhammad. I want to talk about Joseph Smith. Let's start where it really impacts your life, and then we'll move up. This is what I'm doing with the politics too. I'm saying that,
I guess I just haven't gotten that vibe.
What I'm saying is that if you view it, the government can solve all our problems. It should start with the government. It's the social milieu around certain people which causes them to be in the situation that I'm saying, no, let's start bottom up. It's decisions of reproduction is number one.
I know, but then are you also an advocate of like comprehensive sex education?
Yes.
Early.
Yes, I'm totally fine with that. But the thing is, it doesn't need to be that complicated. I can say one simple sentence that will solve so many problems in society. Don't have intercourse if you can't afford a baby or you can't get an abortion. And if you are going to have intercourse, then have like not just one form of protection, have at least 3. And you're still no guarantee you might not get pregnant.
But then doesn't that kind of like, I don't know, it's like the ick factor for me where I'm like, okay, so does that mean that only rich people are allowed to have children?
Well, depends how you define rich. The thing is, when you have, if you have a solid job and you're not rich, but you have a source of income, and if you're in a situation where you're not alone, but you have help, you have a community like a spouse who can help you raise a child. I mean, that should be the bare minimum, right?
Better choices reproductively make your life easier.
Right.
But say that you haven't made smart choices, like what then?
Okay,
like
yes, great question.
What responsibility does the society have to support those kids? And
that's a great question. And I would say, yes, we need to help those kids. But on the same hand, you can't just try to solve a problem with a one-sided way of doing it. And I think the left is better than the right with those issues of of helping kids born into bad situations. But on the other side, what the right's saying is, society ought to make the parents of those kids feel a little bad for what they did. So, and then not only that, guys like me on the internet saying, hey kids, if your parents were crappy, if you came from a foster home or whatever, don't make the same mistakes your parents did. Look that child in the eye and say, learn from the mistakes your parents make and don't repeat them. That's how you get rid of generational poverty.
I agree, but at the same time, like, you need more time to learn to deviate from the norms that you were brought up with. Like, it's not that easy to just like
life's not easy.
Snap out. No, it's not. But it also, like, I'm hopeful for the future. Like, don't get me wrong, but I don't know. I don't have a lot of time. I kind of got to get out of here. But
can I say something in general? And you can tell me if I'm wrong. I think the reason why you use the word vibe twice, that you don't like the vibe of this channel, but yet you like the vibe of my other channel, even though I view what I'm doing as consistent, I treat them the same way. The reason why you don't like the vibe here and you like the vibe there is because you disagree with Christianity. You think Christianity is dangerous. And so when you hear me say some things about the far left that you don't like, but you kind of empathize more with the far left, it's basically because you don't like Christians, but you like some of the things of the far left. And so I haven't changed. It's you.
No, I think it's... And I think you're just kind of like maybe misunderstanding the critique I'm trying to give. But like I said, hell is not a real consequence that I think needs to be brought over. But which is, why I find conversations like yours entertaining on Pine Creek. What?
Tell that to a Christian. That hell's not something to, fight over. This is why
exactly, but that's the same thing as like you trying to tell me that that I don't know. Again, it's just the feeling that I've gotten from this channel, and again,
right. It's a feeling, right? Yeah, it's.
But the feelings don't come from nowhere, right? They come from the inconsistencies that I see in how you approach politics.
But I just demonstrated you in a couple of specific examples, like the bottom up thing, that I am being consistent. I just see the world differently than you, and that's fine. Like,
and I would disagree that you're being consistent. That's all.
But you have yet to give me a specific example.
Let me get back to you and email you, because I know that there's a handful, and I don't want to spend like a whole bunch of time. It's just maybe next time I'm if I catch you live ever and I hear something you say, I'll try and write it down and get to you next time.
Yeah, and you don't have to respond to this, and I know you have to go, but I honestly think that what's happening here is that you're not sensing from me this emotional feeling type caring forness that you would expect me to have.
Well, and I haven't heard you say things like that. And that's why the one
right
thing where you mentioned that you weren't supportive of school lunch programs, and I was just like, what? Like, that doesn't add up to me. But and that was an inconsistency that I heard, that I was just like, that doesn't make sense. And the whole you are like a complete simp for Elon Musk, and it was just like, oh, okay.
I'm not. I've actually come out and said there's many things.
Okay, well, that was the vibe that I.
And there's a guy named Ray here who can vouch for me on that. There's many things I've said that Elon Musk is an idiot about.
Well, and you weren't. I should take that back. You weren't a total simp, but you were far more charitable towards him than me as a leftist is. So that's where. But I just wanted to say I would very much like to hear you strongly advocate for a conservative position, the way a Christian would advocate for their strong belief.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I can very quickly say this. I think it is a conservative position to lean more towards personal responsibility over corporate. So in other words, more of tough love versus soft love. I think it's safe to say that's a very general
and I think
principle.
that's way too broad to really mean anything.
Okay,
But
I'm also
but
for
again,
closed
I will
borders.
I'll pick out examples
That's
and write
specific,
them
right?
down and come back next time. But
Okay.
But I appreciate what you're doing, and I think it's brave, and keep on rocking.
That's not brave. It's easy. But anyhow, take care.
Okay, bye.
See ya. Yeah, and if you listen to this replay, I am for more closed borders. See, the thing is, like, you say closed borders, and what do you mean by closed borders? I'm for nations having their own sovereignty and having rules of who gets in and who doesn't. To me, that just seems so reasonable. By the way, when I mentioned that I passed the citizenship test a few weeks ago, someone said, "Congratulations! I know how I tutor people to pass, and I know how hard it is." Let me say this: it was not hard. I told my wife this too, and she kind of laughed. It is not hard to pass the citizenship test. In fact, it's too easy. In fact, some of you might not know this, but when Trump was president, he made the citizenship test harder. Instead of 100 questions to 132, there was a couple other things added. He made it just a little bit harder. And then when Biden became president, Biden reverted back to the easier. Doug's opinion on the subprime loan debacle would be interesting given his job. Yeah, I was in the trenches. I wasn't just sitting on YouTube talking about the subprime crisis. I was there, knee deep in rice paddies, shooting down Charlie, while pussies like you in the live stream chat thought they knew something about it. The subprime loan debacle was an example of both capitalism gone awry and social liberalism gone awry at the same time. Oh, we gotta have houses for everyone. It's not fair. Those poor people. Oh, we can make money and profit over the idiocy of whatever. Like, watch the show The Big Short, and you'll get a flavor for that. But I worked at a loan company back in 2001 through 2003. And I saw with my own eyes people who have no business buying a home. They could not afford it, but because they were a minority, they got it. Not good. Not good. I was offered a job for a big company, and I turned it down because I saw what was coming. I said, there's a good chance you're not going to be in business in a few years from now. A few years passed, they weren't in business anymore. Yeah, The Big Short was a great movie. It is racism, Stephanie. It is racism to feel sorry for people to the point where, because of their skin color, you give them stuff. Are those loans the fault of the people seeking the loans or the banks that gave them? Both, I'm saying. Didn't you hear what I just said? Capitalism gone awry and this feel sorry for ism gone awry. This whole idea that everybody deserves a home. No, not everybody deserves a home. No. That's why I asked this Aaron guy when I did that CRT live stream, does everyone deserve a home? And he said, yes. And then he caught himself, no, because he believes everything's based on luck. So he had to backtrack. And then I said, well, should my son have a home? He's 16, independent of me. Oh, yeah, that should be. If he can afford a home, he should have his own. Afford, you say? Oh, and then you had to backtrack from that. Well, I don't mean he should be given it. I mean, this whole idea of afford is like capitalistic. What is my view on the PP loans? Bad. I turned down like $20,000 in free money for moral, principled reasons. I'm self-employed, so no, PPP loans was a bad idea. Forgiving PPP loans is a bad idea. Forgiving student loans is a bad idea. I'm consistent. You can disagree with me, but I'm consistent. Because part of the reason why we have inflation today is because of those PPP loans. I got to see the balance sheets of businesses who got millions of dollars from the US government just to keep their employees. And yet their businesses got better because of COVID, not worse. And yet they got to keep all that money. So I started charging them more for my services because I knew they had it and they paid it. I had one guy who paid me like $4,500 and then decided, I don't need your services after all. I said, well, sorry, no refunds. He said, oh, no problem. Keep the money. Like $4,500? Who cares? The government gave me millions, so what? I don't care. This is how you get inflation. It's called trickle down. And for all those your butt clams up when you hear trickle down. Oh, this is trickle down inflation. Yeah, don't get me started. You just feel the passion in me now? Can you feel it? Room's open. So far, I've only had, the only disagreement I've had so far is the vibe I give off. Although the vibe I give off with Christians is good, the vibe I give off with the far left is bad. Trickle down is a myth. Not so fast, Fenton Mully. There's something called the wealth effect. The wealth effect is what the Federal Reserve has used in the last few years, going back to 2000 even, that when you, let's say when bonds are purchased, it lowers interest rates. When interest rates are lowered, money is cheaper. When money is cheaper, people can afford to buy things like homes and so forth. When money is cheaper, when interest rates go down, the discount rate on how you value things goes down, which causes the value to go up. When the value of things go up, you feel wealthier. Listen to me. If you say trickle down is a myth, let me demonstrate how you're wrong. The Federal Reserve used something called quantitative easing to make people feel wealthier. Why did they do this? Look what happened to the stock market whenever there's government intervention. It's called the federal put. This S&P went sky high. What happens when the average American, looks at their 401k, their investments, whatever, whether even their house, the value of their house goes up, or the value of their portfolio goes up? What happens to them psychologically? They are more likely to go have that nice dinner at the Outback Steakhouse. They're more likely to leave a bigger tip at the Outback Steakhouse. What has happened? The government intervention has caused a trickle down of this wealth effect. This is similar, I won't say exactly the same, but this is similar to tax cuts for the rich. But it broadens it more. So not only the rich, but middle class as well. So if you are a proponent that the government, the Federal Reserve, was justified in intervening, you are basically conceding that the trickle down is not a myth. You're welcome. Pine, would you do a Keynesian versus Australian hard money discussion? I actually had one with a guy. Was it on this channel? Yeah. Oh, those are so hard. It's a world. It's almost like atheism versus theism. It's that huge of a gulf of mindset. Spend that fake asset value. Yeah. A nice dinner at Outback Steakhouse is a myth. That's funny. The Outback Steakhouse is one of my favorite restaurants. I'm a regular there. They often give me free desserts. When me and my family go to the Outback Steakhouse, the waitress comes by and says, "Usual?" "Yep." We don't even have to order. It's like, okay. Not just one waitress. I mean, like, I think unless the waitress is new or waiter, they're mostly female. Males can't do good jobs waiting on people. I'm kidding. No, I'm not an Outback proprietor. What's considered poor? It depends what country you're in, but I think in the United States, I think, is it somewhere family of four under 30,000 income? Well, that's poverty. Poverty and poor is different things. You got poverty, then poor, then middle class, upper middle class. Rich is considered, and it depends if you're talking income or net worth. It's complicated. When it comes to taxation, what is usually 400,000 is bandied about, or 200,000 per person. So you accept free desserts rather than your just desserts. Oh, Trevor Lynn, you good one. I think sometimes it's okay to accept a gift if other people are not paying for it. Outback Steakhouse paid for my gift, not other taxpayers, like the PPP loans. Although are taxpayers actually paying for stuff nowadays that the Federal Reserve spends money on? It's getting close to 50-50 that it's, well, what is the federal budget? Around $4 trillion? And how much of that's financed via debt that's been digitized? I don't know. During the COVID year, it was... Oof. Here's another thing. Why tax the rich when you can just digitize the money? It's way faster, way more efficient. Which is, would be fun to speak to a Keynesian about this, about why tax the wealthy. If you're a true Keynesian, if you believe in MMT, then why not just let the rich keep their money and just digitize what you need? Yeah, good point. Big difference between 30K and Montana versus New York. Hey, Ray, I know exactly what you want to talk about.
Okay, what is it?
Trickle down.
No.
No? Okay.
But we can talk about trickle down. I don't know a lot about it.
What do you want to talk about?
Okay. Wanted to talk for a few minutes on if Antifa is really a threat to the country or not.
Oh. Nowadays, I'd say no.
Okay. Well, it was good talking to you.
But let's find an area of disagreement. I do think the stuff that's attributed to Antifa, and whether it's really Antifa or not, it's hard to say, is way worse than January 6th.
All right, so I think that's where we should go.
Yeah, because that's where we disagree, right?
Right, because if I understand you correctly, you are pretty confident that a lot of the violence that occurred following George Floyd's death was because of people who belong to Antifa.
Yeah, but like I said, I admitted that it's really hard unless you interview each one of them. Have you pledged allegiance to Antifa? Like, how else are you going to answer that question, right? But let's say that 80%, or let's say the majority, over 50% of the violence occurred, had to do with people who were pro-Antifa, okay?
Oh, pro-Antifa. Oh, okay. I haven't considered whether somebody, if you were to ask them, are you for or against Antifa, they'd say, oh, I'm for it.
Yeah, or let's say align themselves with the thoughts and whatever Antifa says they are. And then given what we actually saw, and given what we actually saw with January 6th, like it's in the past, I would say the property damage and the deaths for what is considered to be aligned with Antifa is way, way, way worse than what we actually saw with January 6th.
All right, here's where we disagree. The criteria you're giving is not really, is kind of
property damage and death is the criteria.
No, not that criteria. Oh, because I could just as easily say, well, how many of you guys have this income, or how many of you guys think this are more left than right politically, or how many of you guys are not political. There's so many criteria that they could align on that I don't know if that's really links the violence to Antifa. You know what I mean?
Okay, but then I could use that same line of thinking with, well, the January 6th people weren't really Republican; they were more libertarian,
or Christian nationalists, perhaps.
Or they, and maybe a lot of them weren't there for Trump, but it was more like to make a statement of anarchy in general. I could go down that route and kind of.
All right, I see where you're going with that, and I could respond to that. I would say that I think it was around 1,000 people were arrested and charged from that event. We could look at those 1,000 or so people.
I think it was 700 actually.
It's 700. Okay, let's go 700. We could look at those 700 people and look at like what they're charged with and see if they are directly related to if they were there for Trump. And I will bet you the vast majority will say, I'm there because of Trump.
Okay, and I could say if we interviewed, say, some of the riots in, was it Portland or whatever, and interviewed them.
Portland, yes,
and then
I agree.
Do you support instead of Trump, Antifa?
We'll get a higher number with Portland, without a doubt.
Yeah, so you agree it was way worse.
Yes, on Portland, on a geographic area, yes. I don't know if it'd be like it'd be closer to 50%, but I don't know if it'd beat 50%.
Help me understand something, like the Congress, that place, like I'm not superstitious. I'm not like a Roman Catholic. To me, it's a building owned by the government, and I think has less value than, let's say, 3 or 4 private businesses.
Like McDonald's, let's say?
Well, no, not McDonald's necessarily, but like people who have scrounged up their hard-earned earnings and they start a business and then some schmucks come along and destroy it. To me, that's worse than breaking down a door of a government building.
Okay, here's what I think of when you say that. I think you're making this is the tail side of this heads thing. You're making a comparison as if they're the same thing, the opposite sides of the same thing.
Well,
and I think that's where we disagree.
Well, I'm talking about merely property damage right now, and I'm saying that the property damage
caused by the January 6th riots,
versus the property damage caused by Portland.
Not Portland. Let's go the whole country. Because in fact that was.
Well, you want to compare one isolated geographic region with another. You said, right?
Oh no, I didn't say that. I said for Antifa, saying how much people are pro. If you were to ask them, are you pro Antifa or not? I think you'd be higher in Portland than the rest of the country.
Okay. But my main point I'm making here is that I view privately owned businesses more highly than a government one.
I understand it.
Yeah. Do you agree with that?
Interesting. I'm sort of vacillating on that. I'm not really in full agreement with you on that. I think that my problem is, the reason why I'm on a different side than you on this is because the whole point of this is what caused that damage as the word opposite of what caused the damage in the other place? Is that what you're thinking? The cause?
I'm not saying the cause. I'm saying the actual property damage of the privately held businesses I value more than the property of a government, because the government's huge, right? It's like taxpayer funded. It can be more easily replaced than a privately mom and dad shop business. There's less, I think,
In terms of dollar value, yes, you can find more dollar value damage in a lot of. Wait, were you just talking about a lot of, or just one?
Well, I'm just comparing, like, let's say even just one business for now with one area of one building, or let's say because there's
dollar. When you start measuring in dollars, I guess I could imagine.
I'm saying more than just dollars. I'm saying just in terms of me empathizing. I have more empathy with those business owners than I.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So if it's a private business, not a corporation, let's say.
Yeah, because those corporations are evil, and the government's like big corporation.
Come on, let's not go there.
But you see what I'm getting at, right? And so when I'm coming from the perspective that
it's about the feelings.
Yeah, it's about this empathy. It's that my bias is towards those mom and pop businesses, and then is that property is worth more.
Let's make it a tornado. Okay? Let's take the ideology out of it.
Okay.
Act of nature.
Yeah.
Destroys capital. And destroys.
Yeah, I would much rather a tornado go through the Pentagon.
You have more empathy
than
for the owner of the private business than the capital. And I would agree with you on that one. I would say I would feel more empathy for the private business if a tornado came through and destroyed both.
Yep.
In both of them.
So
I agree.
So,
but now we're not talking about a tornado,
right? So, given that, if we're agreed on that, if we're agreed that there was more deaths. Let's say after the George Floyd thing and the Antifa thing.
How much death was there after the George Floyd thing?
I don't know, but do you think there's more death?
I can think of one for sure was a security guard shot and killed by a Boogaloo boy. You know who the Boogaloo boys are, right? The far right wing wants to start a race war to start a civil war. That's their goal. Murdered by a Boogaloo boy. And they caught the guy that did the murder. And then there was the guy. It was a guy shot, a left-winger shot somebody in, was it Kenosha, Wisconsin, during the, right around before, was it before the incident with Kyle Rittenhouse? There was a shooting and a killing and a retaliation. And then there was the two people, or was it two people that were shot and killed by Kyle Rittenhouse?
Yeah.
So that's 4. There was the lady that was trampled during the January 6th. So that's 2 there. So 4 versus 2. Then there's Babbitt. That's 3. So we're talking about 4 to 3. We're not talking about a big difference.
But if there was more deaths from what we are calling that caused by Antifa versus January 6th, would you agree?
I'm not ready to call it caused by
But
Antifa.
if there's more deaths caused by...
if we're talking about a difference of 1, and 1 was due to a nationwide reaction to the killing, I would say Antifa is not as dangerous as a smaller attack that killed 3. Would you agree?
Antifa killed 4 or 3 in this scenario?
Let's say if it's 4 or 5 that were killed from the nationwide reaction to
Antifa,
George Floyd, you think that's mostly Antifa,
right?
Hypothetically, and then 3 or 4 were killed.
Yeah, 5 is worse than 4.
5 is worse than 4, but think about it. Think about how many tens of thousands of people were happening across the country.
You're saying per capita it's not as worse.
Less versus, what was it?
I hear your argument. You're saying per capita it's not as worse, but still quantitatively.
Per violent capita. Yeah.
Absolutely. 5 deaths from riots is worse than 4 deaths from riots, right?
Yeah, but if this were any other topic, you would see it my way on this one, wouldn't you? You would say, well, look,
I've been consistent
more people
on this.
died from out of an event that had 1 million people versus 3 people that died. Or 4
I'm against all violent rioting, and so I'm against all violent rioting.
Me too.
So
and that's the problem where we can both agree with Antifa and the far right. They will go to. They don't have a barrier. They don't have a stopping point. They say when you can be violent when violence is necessary on both sides, right?
Yeah, there can be violence on both sides. I'm looking at is The Guardian a far right wing publication?
No.
Okay.
Staley Stormer. That's the one at the top. That's the ones that pops in the top of my head. There's a couple of KKK ones that are fairly big. No, The Guardian's not a far right. Are you looking for a far right news outlet?
No, I'm just trying to figure out if there's any estimates of how many people died because of the riots. and I'm getting 25.
Okay.
During the George Floyd
era. Hold on. I think I gotta take this.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay.
Bye.
Talk to you later. But whatever the number is, like I think people like Ray will say, well, that's not really Antifa who did that. That's just crazy people or whatever. Well, I could say, well, it's not really Trump supporters who did that. It's just crazy people who want to use Trump as an excuse to act out their craziness. Right? It goes both ways. 26 caused by burn, loot, murder. Yeah, but for some reason it puzzles me why some people have feel this need to say January 6th is worse than that. When less people died, less property damage. It's this idea of what it represents. Like I've talked to people about this, and but the Congress and the democracy is what it represents, and it's the fear that we can't trust our democracy. It's this whole feelings type thing, whereas my feelings, and no, these private citizens who have their businesses are more important. The Constitution is going to stand. And of course I can be wrong, but it's this fear the Nazis are going to take over. Not going to happen in my lifetime. I'll make a bet. Real money. There will not be a dictator in the United States during my lifetime. Although, granted, I only got maybe 38 years left. I probably have 40 years left. So all you young kids out there, there's no young kids listening right now, but all you young kids out there who think you're going to die from drowning from climate change, you think you're going to die from an evil dictator fascist. No, not going to happen. Not on my watch. Big difference in looting when there's a flood or event versus rioting into chaos. Well, I would say in the United States of America, the chances of looting being caused by a sincere need for food is rare. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but it's so incredibly rare. How young are young kids? When I say young kids, I'm thinking people under 25. You are going to die from McDonald's, but you're not going to die from a fascist Nazi dictator. Not going to happen. Now, you eat too many Big Macs, then you're going to die young. To me, it's weird that people are actually debating if January 6th is worse than general riots. What's the predicted result here? Yeah, to me, it's a no-brainer that it's not even close. And at this, I can say that in the same time saying that it was bad and shouldn't have happened. I'm not defending anyone here. I identify as a 20-year-old. Well, thank you, Danny. I identify as a crippled black woman who's transgender. Because I have found, if I identify as a crippled black woman that's transgender, I get the most sympathy. Yeah, Danny, but you look like you're turning 17 and you've never been kissed. You have that never been kissed look. In fact, let me bring a picture of you to prove to you. Speaking of which. Oh, is this mean? This is not Danny. Oh, I got so many tabs open. I got to leave that tab open for later. I want to prove to everyone here.
But for whatever.
Yeah, see. Is this not the face of someone who's never been kissed? I mean, just so innocent. The innocence on that face. Like, what, Dad? You said stay in tonight? Don't go out with those boys? And oh, the innocence. Like, Danny, if you lived in the Old Testament days, and if you lived with the Canaanites, they would look at you. You would be the first one sacrificed. Like, you would appease so many gods from your death. I mean, they would have lush crops for centuries because of your sacrifice. Is he laughing? See, this is objective beauty. Oh, not, yeah. That's objective beauty. Oh, I can't be that mean, can I? Ugh. That's not. I don't care if it's mean, it's the truth. And we all know it's the truth. Just some of us have more courage to admit it. My daughter asked me the other day, on a scale of 1 to 10, how attractive do you think you are to the world? And very quickly, I didn't have to think, I'm a 5. And I said, sometimes a 6, depending on how I do my hair and makeup. And I said, I know I'm a 5, which is dead average, because when I go shopping, no one stares at me. If you're stared at when you go shopping, you're either extremely ugly or extremely good looking. If nobody stares at you, you're average. Okay? Live with it. Be okay with knowing that nobody cares about you, that you're just an average Joe. But when Danny goes to Costco, chaos erupts. The aisles just get all congregated and like, it's like the paparazzi. Dalai Lama says more than a 5 or 6. Okay, I mean, whew. Sure, I'll take a 6.5. But then my daughter asked me, Daddy, my daughter's 19, so it's not really, she's not like a little girl or anything, but she said, Dad, what am I out of 10? Can you imagine being a father and having your daughter ask you, the father, to rate his daughter on a scale of 0 to 10? And I said to her, I'm going to be honest with you. You're a 6.5. You're a little bit better looking than me. And I said, there's a lot of females out there who are better looking than you, but there's more females out there that are worse looking than you. And that's okay. And I basically told her what I've been saying here today, that you have to have an honest view of yourself and be okay with it. Doug was like a girl in the movies that is a 5 and takes his glasses off. Yeah, watch this. No, that didn't work. That's not sexy. Okay, Ray wants back in. Ray, you're nothing but trouble. What do you want?
Oh, I'm back.
Yeah, you're back.
All right. So 25 people died, from George Floyd riots, and how many did they say died?
From January 6th?
And I will concede that it will be more during the George Floyd riots.
Okay.
Than January 6th.
You conceded more death from George Floyd
in total,
riots?
Yes.
And you concede that more property damage?
Yes.
Okay. Than January 6th. So you've conceded more death, more property damage than January 6th. So compared to January 6th, the George Floyd riots were worse.
It's a bigger event. Do you think?
Yes or no, sir?
Do you think they're the opposite sides of a political ideology?
All I'm asking right now is, in terms of property damage and death,
yes,
the George Floyd riots were worse than January 6th.
Do you think it was proportional?
Proportional? You mean the amount of people involved? No, not proportional. But in terms of raw numbers of deaths and
raw numbers are bigger. Proportional numbers compared to how many?
Because you identify as left, right?
Yes.
So I want to get a left-leaning person like yourself who's honest to admit that in terms of property damage, in terms of deaths, the George Floyd riots were worse than January 6th. Can you admit that?
Yes, of course.
There we go. I can die happy.
Don't die. Live happy.
But you would say now, let me steel man you, that in proportion to the number of people involved with the George Floyd riots and the number of people involved in January 6th is much smaller than the Floyd. So on a per capita basis, the rioting, the George Floyd thing was less bad.
Yeah, but I'm more interested in what if they're really comparable in terms of one's an ideology. They're both ideologies, opposite ideologies that led to this.
Yeah, I think there's slightly different types of ideologies. One is more anti-capitalism, more systemic racism, and the other one is more strictly political.
To some degree, sure, but I was thinking more along the lines of, in one case, the response was about an authority looking into a camera while they murdered somebody. And if you look back at other instances like that, there's been violence from the past from stuff like that, like Rodney King. God, there must be 2 or 3 other ones that were just scary big. And then you you look at another situation where, let's say, a right-winger like Dylan Roof. Remember that guy? He went into the A&E church and shot up a bunch of people that welcomed him into for prayer and whatever they were doing that night. So there was no big riot after that one, right? And I think the reason why a murderer like Dylan Roof, obviously a extreme right winger, right? Would you agree?
I'm not actually familiar with Dylan Roof's background.
Okay, well, you could take a second, just take a peek at it real quick.
He's a white male, white supremacist neo-Nazi, according to Wikipedia.
That's pretty far right, right?
Yeah. Or far left, depending on how you look at it.
We may have to have a discussion whether being a Nazi is right or left. So,
Socialist
for
Party?
the purposes of my discussion, or this discussion, I'm going to say right.
Okay.
And he murdered several people
right.
who were being nice to him in cold blood, but didn't result in riots. Yet, you get a situation where an authority murders somebody, or in the Rodney King's case, they didn't murder him, but they got off after horrendously beating him on camera, basically. That leads to riots. So I think it's more about not necessarily
what actually led to the
all
riot?
the stuff you were thinking about. I think it's more about an authority that has this, where you depend on them for law and order to something.
You're talking about George Floyd now?
Yeah, in the case of George Floyd, I think.
Well, he was convicted. The police officer was convicted. I'm not sure I'm following you.
Oh, I said it. Oh, okay, I see where I lost you. I was saying in Rodney King's case, it wasn't because they killed Rodney King there was riots. The officers that were videoed beating him as a more or less a gang to teach them a lesson. They got off.
Okay,
And
but
then the
why are you
riots
saying all this?
happened.
Are you saying there's
I'm
justified
saying my
rioting?
point is about authority of abusing the people that depend on it to be distributed equally, not necessarily about the things that you were mentioning. I think it's more about that. Authority stared into the camera and said, I dare you to pierce my, not verbally, I dare you to pierce my qualified immunity, while he felt the person underneath his knee stop struggling and stayed on him. And that was just too much. That was like, this is
right. But if George Floyd was a white person and the exact same thing happened, do you think rioting would have happened?
Yes, I do.
I don't
if
think
it was
so.
like that, the exact same thing where an authority, a police authority,
why do you say that?
Looked into the camera like that? Yes, I do. In fact, it was more just in America. It was
the camera wouldn't have been on him in the first place. I mean,
well, that's a pretty big assumption, right?
Well, it's pretty safe. Like, would you say?
What if he was white, covered in tattoos on his face?
Oh, that's a good question. If the police officer would have, instead of George Floyd, it was a neo-Nazi lying on the ground.
Not a neo-Nazi.
No, but listen to this. This is good.
Okay.
Imagine a neo-Nazi white supremacist lying on the ground, bald guy, face tattoos, and the police officer killed him with his knee to his throat.
That's an interesting question.
Would there be riots?
It's possible it wouldn't have. It's possible
the left would have cheered.
That was big. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yes. So we agree that the degree of a reaction depends on the victim to some extent, right?
It's the feel sorry for ism. Who do you feel more sorry for?
No, that's not feel sorry for.
Sure it is. Sure it is. If they don't riot with the neo-Nazi, because they don't like the neo-Nazi.
I didn't say they wouldn't riot. I said it'd be a smaller reaction. There could have been riots. Okay. Wouldn't have been worldwide.
Smaller reaction. I'll take it. Then what's the reason why there's a smaller reaction versus a bigger reaction? It's the level of feel sorry for ism for the person who's dead.
Not necessarily.
What else would it be?
What would be the second best reason that somebody else other than a neo-Nazi might get a very large reaction from that type of murder?
No, you said it'd be a smaller reaction with the neo-Nazi, right?
Yeah, and
you're asking me why? What other reason other than the feel sorry for ism?
Yeah, let's look at it as a scale instead of a just plus and minus, pole or opposites. Think of a scale. Think about what kind of person in between those poles would get a bigger reaction from an authority, a police authority, staring into the camera, murdering as people beg that authority to please stop.
I agree with you. There would still be a reaction, but it was not as big as.
And it could get bigger depending on the person, the victim, right?
Yeah. What determines the size? I'm saying what determines the size of the reaction is the person who's being killed.
Yeah, I agree. But you went right to feel sorry for ism.
Yeah.
I know that's where you and I really disagree.
Well, maybe
your basis.
Maybe I'm just using the wrong terminology, and we actually agree. More empathy. There's less empathy to the neo-Nazi, more empathy to George Floyd.
Okay, I'll agree. There's a layer of that, but I think there's something else and I'll probably express it poorly for you, but I think it's part about fairness, and that's something that somebody who leans conservative should understand and be able to agree with pretty well.
Yeah, I agree with you. I would have been the type of person who had done a peaceful protest. In either case, if I was in there.
Me too.
To say that what the police officer did, it was wrong.
Right.
Right. But now.
And there were people that did that, right?
Yeah. I'd say most people did that.
It depended on the time of day, I would say.
Well, yeah, that's true. After 8:00 p.m., it was probably not peaceful.
I think the motivations may have changed after it got dark.
But the reason why, do you disagree with the reason why there was the big reaction that we got was because George Floyd had dark skin?
Not entirely, but yes, partially.
What's the other part?
I think part of it's not just that he was black or dark skinned, if you want to go that way, but part of it is I keep seeing it as like, okay, this is authority being abused to somebody who is a dark skin, who's definitely got problems
Yeah.
And we found out later he had a criminal history, right?
Yeah.
Drug problem, all this stuff, all this derogatory stuff, right? And yet he didn't get equal treatment under the law, so to speak, and in the worst possible way, in front of. It wasn't even hidden. It was, I dare you. That's what I think it was. I don't think it's just necessarily his skin was dark. It's that this is the segment of society that has been saying that they're not getting treated fairly or equally. And this was the pornographic proof.
Actually, that police officer, one could argue he was
those police officers. Let's go
with those police officers.
One in particular, you're right.
Especially the one with the knee on the neck. What was his name?
It was a Latin name, wasn't it? It was.
If it's true that scenario I gave with the neo-Nazi, who would have done the same thing and killed the neo-Nazi on the ground, the white guy,
with people begging.
Yeah, if he would have done reacted the exact same way, that demonstrates he's not a racist, and he was conducting his power in a fair way, although incorrectly. Would you agree with that?
Not entirely, no, because he could be a racist and do what you just said, both.
Okay, he didn't do a racist act.
Okay,
right then.
It would be a different reason for doing
that's why
the
it's so hard to know or to call a specific action racist, because if it were true that he would have done the exact same thing to a white guy and killed him, then I think it's pretty hard to make the claim that he was racist in his actions right that day, because it wasn't a matter of skin color. He's just a stupid cop.
Okay, that could be, but why couldn't it be that one day he does it for does a murder for a non-racist reason, another day he murders for a racist reason?
Well, it could be, but I'm saying for that one action, and so that's why it's really hard to pinpoint.
Really hard?
Yeah, it's really hard to pinpoint why people do what they do unless they come out and tell you.
What if it? Okay, let's take racism off the table. Oh wait, before I forget, I did mention the Dylan Roof thing. I don't think we completed that one. Do you see my point about that? That was definitely a racist murder, multi-murder, right?
Sure, I'm not familiar with it. Maybe I am, but I forgot. I don't know.
Okay,
is it the Muslim church they went into?
No, it's a black church. Traditional.
Oh yeah, okay.
Church.
That was how many years ago?
In there. Yeah, I forgot. It was within 10 years, maybe 5 years.
Yeah, I see.
So we get the racism thing and violence thing, we look at it from a different perspective. Just having a violent racist murder is not enough to cause that kind of reaction, as proved by the Dylan Roof going in and murdering people. It wasn't just a racism that
right. You're saying it's the flamboyance.
Not flamboyance.
That's the wrong word, but the egotistical.
We all depend on. I'm going to say police, but that level of
the egotistical
equally
form of power is what you're saying is what caused it.
That's pretty general, but I'm just going to keep it simple with police. Okay, it'd be nice to expect equal treatment under the law.
Right. So I'm with you there.
So I think we can find examples of riots that resulted from unequal treatment under the law to a minority group. Fine, right?
Yep.
That were bigger, but we can find instances of horrible racism that were not from law, that didn't result.
Right. And your point is it was that
it's not just about racism.
You're right. It's about looking into that camera and say, "I dare you," or whatever you said, right?
And these people saying, "Look, we want what you have. We want fairness here, and we're not getting it. Look how obscene this is."
What state did the Dylan Roof thing happen? Wasn't that like a southern? It was a southern church, right?
Right. Was it Louisiana?
I forget.
Because that's the lady. The lady was governor then. Haley. I can't think of her last name.
Yeah. Whereas George Floyd was killed in Minneapolis.
Right. But you see blue
state versus red state.
No, let's not go there.
So if you're killed racially in a blue state,
actually,
riots.
What'd you say? It was Minneapolis, Minnesota. Actually, it's interesting. Let's not go too deep into the blue state, red state thing. But with gerrymandering, isn't it possible some states are really blue, but because gerrymandering, they look red?
Sure. But that's a whole new topic.
Right, but let's drift away from that. My point is, you can have horrendous, obscene murders that are purely racial, and we won't get a nationwide, at this time of our lives, we won't get a nationwide
right
riots. And
in the same way, Trump can say, we need to take back our country, and there's Republicans who will never storm the Capitol.
Agree.
Yeah. So it's more of an excuse for certain people to do certain things. It's for certain times.
That's interesting. I like that you kept that very general, because you can see that there are some people that committed violence those days, not necessarily because of ideology, right?
Yeah. Like the people that Rittenhouse killed were just plain wacko psychos. They probably didn't really have an ideology. Like
no, one of them did.
One of them?
He thought he was rescuing somebody. He thought he was not rescuing. That's the wrong word. He thought he was stopping somebody who had committed a crime and was running away. Definitely the guy with the skateboard thought that. Remember that guy? He hit him with a skateboard, or tried to.
Yeah. Well.
Yeah. That guy thought wrongly.
You got to admit, like kids under 20, 25. I mean, you really think they're diving deep into the political ideology, or they just
they don't know shit,
right? And they're just acting out their frustrations of life and saying, "Here's a good excuse."
Not just that, they also have a lot of ignorance, right?
Right.
So they're filling in the gaps, right?
Right. It's frustration.
No, it's frustration and mistaken faith, bad faith, dumb faith. I don't know.
Ignorance. Yeah. Okay.
Ignorance, frustration, and ignorance.
Yeah.
You know, you don't know what really happened here, but you think you do.
I wonder if we were to poll the people on January 6th who went in there, and then also the poll the people who caused death and property destruction, the Antifas, whatever, and ask them how many of them had a father in the home growing up. I would love to see data on that.
I wonder if it'd just be the national average.
Maybe, but my intuitions say, just like with in jails, I think it's 70% of the jail population were a product of the foster home or didn't have a father.
For the people who commit violence, that's interesting. I guess I would make cohorts, because you'd have to filter out the people who commit. You'd have to filter out the people who commit violence just because there's an opportunity, right?
Yeah, but there's many opportunities for you and I to commit violence. We don't act upon it.
True. So you want to generalize it?
I'm just saying that the core cause of a lot of these things is not so much ideology or ignorance or frustration. It's what I was saying to the previous caller who didn't get the right vibe from me. Responsibility starts in the home. It's like, and I know this is something that maybe some people on the left don't like to hear because it places blame on parents.
Oh, I hate it. No.
But I do blame parents.
That's okay with me if you want to blame parents.
Yeah.
I also think that's part of.
Do you think the chances my kids rioting and causing property destruction or death is so incredibly low because they have two good parents?
Well, wait a minute. Aren't there? I can think of one.
Sure, there's exceptions.
Right.
But that doesn't disprove the rule. I sound like Andrew Tate.
It's obviously fair to have. What'd you say?
I said I sound like Andrew Tate now when he was talking to Piers Morgan. Sure, there's exceptions, but it doesn't disprove the rule.
Oh my God! Did you see Andrew Tate talk to that guy Hassan that you had the video clip on?
No.
You remember? You know what I'm talking about? The guy that was making fun of the lady Sydney. You showed one of those reaction YouTube channels, Hassan Abi, I think his name is, and he was saying things about her, derogatory things about her. Do you remember the guy? You showed it earlier today.
I showed it earlier today. No.
Okay, so that lady was the Australian lady.
Yeah.
Sydney, I think her name is.
Yeah.
Was on that Vice panel,
right?
Vice News panel. You brought up a YouTube channel where this guy named Hassanabi, was reacting to her and saying, making fun of her for
Oh,
being
yeah,
whiny.
okay. Yeah. The guy was swearing a lot.
That guy did a debate with Andrew Tate.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
And you might find
my guess is Andrew Tate wiped the floor with him.
No.
No?
Uh-uh.
Okay.
And you also see he didn't behave the same way because I think people be doing reaction videos on YouTube act differently than when they're communicating with somebody, even over the internet, when it's interactive.
Can you help me understand something?
I doubt it.
Like,
honesty. Wait, what?
This is a left-wing liberal.
Oh, you want me to give my take on his take on you?
Yeah, I want your take on this guy's take on me.
My reaction.
Like, why is he saying this?
Okay, I have a guess, but wouldn't it be better to ask him?
Well, honestly, atheist, you're welcome to come on, but I'm sure he's a kid who lives in the basement of his parents' house.
Okay, that could be. All right, here's my guess, and you can just ignore it.
Okay.
I think he thinks your standards of skepticism are different with your religious takes and your political takes. So, for example, you know a lot about Christianity. And when you get a Christian caller and they make a claim, I imagine, even though you try to keep all your emotions out of it, your level of skepticism is higher to start with, just because you're experienced. And your emotions are really down. You got them pretty tight. Not always, but most of the time.
Yeah.
But if you were to switch over to a political caller, you're not at that same level with those two things. And therefore, you come off from that guy's point of view as an apologist for your side.
What's interesting is about that, and whatever that guy's name was, can say
honest something,
can say whether Ray is right or not. What is interesting is when I get Christian callers, even Muslim callers, you do realize I play dumb a lot, right?
You're talking to me now, right?
Yeah, I'm talking to you.
Not him.
Yeah, I play.
Yes, of course.
I play dumb.
I've seen you long enough that I know that.
Yeah, and I'm no different when it comes to politics. I rather concede, like I did here with you, like that killing, that church killing. I remember it now vaguely, but like I'll say very quickly, I don't know. I'm not aware.
Don't know what?
Whatever we're talking about. I'm just saying in general, if I am willing to concede very quickly, I'm willing to give someone, when we're talking about politics, whatever they want, just like I do with the Christians.
I can think of an example recently. I don't watch your politics videos very much. There is one I'm going to watch, but it's a long one, so I got to take it in small doses. But I can think of one example recently where I think you showed more emotion in the politics video than you normally show.
To me, it's because it's more interesting. Like, I've been doing the...
Okay, so you recognize it.
I can, yeah, but the thing is that you can find examples of me being very emotional or passionate in the religious ones too.
Absolutely, just not as many.
Yeah, well, that's because the point you were saying, there's less of a sample size on the political.
Okay, that's good. That's fair.
Yeah,
I agree. So if we look at when you're after you've done a 200 or more, maybe it'll all be the same to me.
Yeah, and here's another thing. Did you see that one with Aaron and the critical race theory?
I only caught the tail.
Like, if you watch that one, I treated Aaron just like I would a Christian apologist.
Yeah, but you did something emotional at the end of that one, if I remember correctly.
But well, we went.
No. Yeah, you did. You brought up was it at the end of that one or later, where you brought up a video clip of a man talking about CRT?
Oh, after he left.
So it was that one, right?
Yeah, but after he left, then I played that clip.
Your point was, I'd like to see him say that to that guy, And I thought that was an emotional reaction. That's what that was.
But I do the same thing on my Christian or the regular channel. I often do stuff like that. What I think is what happens here is because people, and this is what with that female caller who called in earlier, because they so passionately agree with me when it comes to Christianity or Islam or whatever, and then they see me disagree with them on something else, there has to be a difference. There has to be an explanation for this. Doug has to be more ignorant, or Doug has to be more passionate and emotional about this, so therefore he can't see clearly. I think that's what's happening.
I don't think so. And here's why. Boy, how do you phrase this? Okay. If you saw a video from, I want to say Tucker Carlson, that's probably not a good example.
I made fun of him the other day.
I saw that was good. I appreciated that.
It's like there's all these stereotypes. Oh, Doug must watch Fox News. Doug must like Tucker Carlson. No,
I don't know what you watch, to be honest with you.
I don't watch TV, to be honest.
Well, I figured that. Neither do I.
Does anybody anymore? I don't know.
Yes, of course. People with TVs.
Poor people watch TV.
Yes. I wonder, back to this skepticism standard, I wonder if your level of skepticism when you hear a claim from, and Tucker Carlson's a terrible example, but I got to think of something good, where you might not be willing to dig into it as willingly, or your skepticism might not be as high to begin with when you hear something that you agree with from, or already believe on the right. Where if it was on the left, your skepticism's higher. Am I wrong?
Yeah, it's really hard to say if you're, I would say, no, you're not wrong, but that is almost meaningless if we don't dive into a specific example, because I'm just.
You're right. It's hard with that.
It's like
example. I know there's been times when I've watched you where that's what went through my head, but I didn't go right down the time, date, and place.
Right. Like, and this is it's almost like a worldview thing where I'll concede to, let's say, a Christian, hey, you believe this because it gives you comfort? Great. Move on, next caller. Like, who really cares? And with a lot of the political stuff, if someone who has a natural inclination for soft love, let's say, and that's why they believe it, okay, great. I don't care. Let's move on. So I don't know. Maybe it's because I don't care as much as other people about certain issues, and so then they view me a certain way.
Yeah, that could be. I agree. That could be. I could be wrong that your level of skepticism is not noticeably different, but to me it is. On several occasions.
But you've yet to give me a specific example.
I know. Sometimes when people ask you,
and that happens so often to me, where people will say to me, Doug, I disagree with you. You're X, you're Y, you're Z. Well, can you give me an example? And then they never do, or very rarely do.
I can probably do it, but just sometimes it happens when somebody asks you at the moment. That's never happened to you, where you've thought something many times. It's been repetitive.
Oh, we got a specific example.
Where?
Okay. Oh yeah, and this is actually good. This is the guy who commented earlier. And this is the difference between, like, in my business.
Honestly atheist.
This is tough to do. Come on. There we go.
I think we're all honestly atheist.
In the business I do, I have to separate opinion from fact. And so when I talked about, I actually asked a question. I didn't make a claim. I'd be curious to know how many fathers are in the home or whatever. This is an opinion sentiment. I'm not saying it's a fact that, although I did make the claim 70% in jail. Now, you can fact check me on that, on the foster home thing. But anyhow, Pine Creek Politics, your comment, it must be the lack of father figures, what I'm commenting on specifically. It's a common line from Christian apologists of what I would say atheists. Okay, that is true. It is a common line. And you know what? I'm being consistent here. I do think that is sometimes the real reason that some atheists are atheists.
Yeah, this one doesn't raise to the level where I'm thinking that I've gone, yelling at the TV when you say something. No, Doug. This isn't. There's some very, very simple, specific ones where I'm like, why aren't you skeptical about that?
Now, But a lot of atheists might be really upset with what I just said. But I do think some atheists are atheists today because they did not have a father figure in the home. Now, I'm not saying that they're wrong. Like, I think atheism is true. But their primary reason, I think, stems from, in other words, I'm saying this, and I think it's very hard for some atheists to disagree with this. I think if there was an atheist, a very loving, caring Christian father who treated his children really well, that some atheists today would not be atheists. They would still be Christian. But because of, I'm going to rebel against my dad, I'm going to rebel against my mom.
Rebelliousness. Sure. Absolutely.
Like, if you think that doesn't exist, then you're just nutso.
Oh, I know it exists.
Yeah.
Did you see that Muslim lady that was raised in a very hippie environment? I mean, way too wooey, and was abused, and nobody would do anything. And then she went completely the other way and married like a world champion Muslim fighter who has many wives. I guess they're limited to 4.
Andrew Tate.
And very strict Muslim environment. Did you see that lady?
No.
She's very rational, but it was like, why do you go from one extreme to the other? Why pull the pole? And that's exactly what that is.
Dalai Lama says, man in the house does not equal father figure. Yeah, I agree, Dalai Lama. When I mean man in the house, I mean a good father figure. And like, there's a reputation of pastors' kids that if you're a PK, a pastor's kid, odds are you're going to leave Christianity and become a Christian, an atheist. And that's because the father in the home will value his own church, his own flock more than his own family. Then the kid grows up bitter, and why can't I get this attention? Then starts to act out, and then eventually gives it all up.
It's not because they heard so much religion they realized it wasn't true.
Well, sure, some of that could be true as well. But I do have some sympathy for people on the Christian side who say, well, you're just an atheist because you didn't have a father in the home. Like, you look at a lot of people that I follow on Twitter and even on YouTube who are atheists. I bet you anything that they didn't have a good father figure in the home. I'm willing to wager money on it. I'd love to do a poll. Again, this is my opinion, but I would love to do a poll on that. Like, I think you and I are exceptions, but we're from a different generation.
My battery's my battery will last another minute or two. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just saying that you and I are from a different generation, and so we might be exceptions. But I think for the younger atheists on YouTube or Twitter or TikTok or whatever, I think a lot of them come from messed up lives, messed up families.
I got a question since you brought up the bad father or missing father. What do you are you assuming they have a good mother, or does that not matter? Or what if it was reversed? What if they had a good father and a bad mother? How do you think things would pan out?
Okay, I'm going to say something very controversial here that I cannot back up with science. Although maybe I could, but you can almost back up anything with science.
Better make it quick before we add it, guys.
I think the way a child turns out in life is based on more on the father than the mother.
How much more are we talking here?
60-40 split, I'll say.
I think it could, depending on how bad they are, it could go either way.
And what I base that on is you just look at stats of criminals. Most of them had a home with a mother, but not a father.
Right. Was a mother good or bad?
Well, right now I'm just talking about the presence of.
Okay.
And so, again, I can't prove this, I can't demonstrate this, but based on some data I've seen, I think the success of a human being is weighted more towards the father than the mother.
All right. I can see why you see that. What if it doesn't matter? What if they're just in such a crappy environment that it doesn't matter if you have a good mother or a good father or both or
well, then
one?
You're screwed.
Right. And by environment, you know what I mean. Like the community is so repressed or so poor that it won't matter. You're just struggling no matter what you have.
Yeah.
You don't have a chance of having a good mother or father.
Yeah. Then and that's what the previous caller asked. What do you tell those people? And my advice is don't repeat the mistakes of your parents.
That's a good advice. Tough to do.
I know, very tough to do, but it's probably the best advice you can give someone. Whatever you didn't like about what your parents did, remind yourself on a daily basis not to do.
Yeah, that might happen with most people over the long run.
Like my dad was a very good father, but he was also very busy. And I keep telling myself, spend more time with your kids, spend more time with the kids. So I spend so much time with my kids. It's maybe too much. I don't know. But anyhow,
well, they'll tell you.
I'll let you go, Ray.
All right. Been good talking to you.
Yep.
Bye.
I wonder how many people disagree with my comment about fathers. I'm a way better parent than my parents ever were, says Sapiraj. Good for you. Apologists bring up lack of fathers to cast doubt on the validity of conclusion of atheism. No, I think apologists bring it up to say how they became atheists first, and then it's implied that they're just atheists because they're acting out or something. And if that's what they're saying, I would say in some cases at least, you and I would agree with them. I think it would be stupid not to, that can't happen and doesn't happen. But the validity of the conclusion of atheism, if that's only what they mean, then yeah, I disagree with them. But it's sort of like saying, like, asking a Christian, how did you first become a Christian? Like I ask that often, right? It gets to the biases we have, what was going on in their life, what caused the first movement into the belief. That can go both ways. What caused the first movement? Like you take a lot of LG or queer people. I was told, forget about the letters, just say queer. People who are queer who used to be Christian, my guess is a lot of the reason why they're atheists today is because they're queer. And it got their mindset so against Christianity, even though some versions of Christianity would accept them, that they left Christianity. Like what I'm saying now is not controversial. It's not weird at all that a lot of people who are queer left Christianity because they're queer. Not because the core propositions are not true. It's because they didn't feel loved in church. I think that's very reasonable to say. And I would say to those queer people who left Christianity because of that, that's a bad reason to leave Christianity. In fact, Christianity could be true, and the version of Christianity that says if you practice like a queer person, you go to hell, that could be true, and you still could leave Christianity. That's fine. It's your choice. But the truthfulness of it, just because you don't like it, no, you can't say that. Yeah, it's the genetic fallacy, right? No, I'm not talking about the validity of leftism. Honestly, atheists, hear me out. I am on record of saying many, many times the right needs the left needs the right. It's the differences in how we view the world and that we need each other. There's no such thing as the left is valid and the right is valid. It's a stupid way to frame it. But you can actually talk about biases from the right, biases from the left, and how they see the world affects those biases, that it is their biases. So when I was talking to Ray about would we still have riots if George Floyd was white? And if the answer is no, well, that gets to bias, being angry against racism and feeling you need to do something about. Or if the riots still would have happened, then it's anger about misuse of power or whatever. It's not about the left is invalid. Now, the left and right can say things that are factually false, and then that's easily falsified. But if you came late, the first caller, Examining Truth, was her name? What was her name? I think the sentiment that she gave at the very beginning, I think is correct. I think it shows why so many people on the left love my religious channel, but not my political channel. It's because of this. It's not something that you can actually pinpoint and say, okay, Doug, you're factually wrong here. A lot of times I can concede that. Okay, I'm factually wrong here. But that doesn't change my value structure or how I see the world, right? Or even my gut reaction to certain things. I smell soured milk, ugh, gut reaction. Doesn't change that. Whether I'm factually wrong or right about stuff, doesn't change that gut reaction. We all have it. And for the left and right, those gut reactions, which we can call intuitions, are different on average. So I think people on both the right and left have to get rid of this idea of we're right, you're wrong in general. On certain things, like if we're talking about certain facts, so-and-so many people died on this day by so-and-so people who identify as so-and-so. That's either a factually correct or factually wrong. But just general ways you think are better ways to run a government, like how do you define better? In the long run or the short run? In which country? In which state? Like there's so many unknowns and so many things that can work or not work. Right, there's some aspects of society that come from the left that are good, and some aspects that come from the right that are good. Some come from the left are bad, some aspects of the right, bad. And if you're someone who, let's say, leans left, I'll pick on the left because most of you guys are lefties. If you just say carte blanche, the right is worse for society than the left, you are not thinking. I'm going to make that claim. You're either too young, you haven't been beat up by life enough, you haven't experienced enough to realize that we do need each other. And in other countries that don't have Democrats, Republicans, it's the same thing. This is why we evolved, why men and women are different. Oh, in case you didn't know, men and women are different on average. We are different, almost different species. We need each other. So to say that the right, or that there's a better way to run a society and that way is left or that way is right, is saying that men are better than women or women are better than men. It's like, no. Have I been going for 2 hours yet? Oh yeah, more than that. Better to be a numby bum pumby softy left feely lefty than a righty. Topic change. Any strong opinion on gun rights or restrictions? No, I don't. I actually don't have strong opinions on almost anything except for maybe free speech. I'm pretty strong there, but yeah. I have seen some pretty compelling evidence that the more gun restrictions you have, the less deaths you have. But does that mean you ban all guns? Or just, I think not, right? So where's that line? And that line's different for different people. In what ways do lefties need conservatives? In what ways do lefties need conservatives?
Need fentanyl!
Okay, this is to answer Jerome's question. In what ways do the people on the left need people on the right? Where does that come from? I got so many tabs here. There we go. Now let's get rid of this one. Oh. There we go.
Oh, we love mocking middle America, don't we, New York? Don't we? They're so fucking stupid, aren't they? They also grow all your food, don't they, you little fuckers, don't they? You little soft-handed liberal scum, you'd bleed.
The left needs the right because the right feeds them. The right feeds you. Literally. Most farmers, middle America, rural, mostly Republican, feed you. Truck drivers who bring the food to your store, lean right, bring you your food.
If you looked at a shovel, you little cunts, wouldn't you? You don't do a single useful thing for the planet, you little fuckers, isn't that true? You'd die in a day without Republicans, wouldn't you? Yeah. You can't eat a podcast, can you? Yeah.
You can't eat a podcast. Good luck finding a plumber that's woke. And the right needs the left for the times like, okay, someone's crying. Someone on the left, give them a hug. I don't want to. No, you give them a hug. You tell them everything's going to be okay. Sorry about the loudness. Yeah, I'm fixing it. I'm fixing it. Whereby screws up. In fact, I'm going to close whereby. I don't need farmers because I have a grocery store. Yeah. Exactly. Doug loves the political straw man, but it's just not. See, Mindful Chip, I can tell that you're a very emotional guy. Why not point out the extremists on both sides? They are the problem. You know, you sound like those Christians who say, why can't you talk about Islam? Why are you beating up on the Christians? And the answer I always give is because 65% of the United States is Christian, not Islam. And 65% of the people in here lean left, not right. There you go. I'm the embodiment of consistency. It's like, stop making my side look bad. I'm not making your side look bad. I'm just giving you a different perspective. Good one, Dalai Lama. Rainbow VHS. Why is an abusive, angry, racist, misogynist, or crude behavior necessary to be a plumber? What other Republican characteristics are common to plumbers? Yeah, that's funny. I think, Damien, Rainbow VHS was just being funny. But if we was being serious, then you know, he's special. You gotta treat him like a special kid on the short bus. Lesbian plumbers, yeah. If there's lesbians listening, start a plumbing company, you'll make millions. Woke plumbing. We don't have a sense of humor, but we can unclog your drains. That'll be tough to do, honestly, atheists, because no matter where you lean, you can be like so different than someone else. It has to be on a certain issue and then ask questions. You need another theme tune. No, Andy Rose, this is a litmus test. If you don't like my music, you gotta like me even more to stay. And if you go, that's okay. Thank you, Bill. My plumber is woke. Good. Yeah, smash that like button. And if you want, you can subscribe. I mean, it's like... But I understand most of you are freeloaders. You don't like to do any work for any things you've heard today that made you laugh, or even like some of you like to be angry, and I provided you an opportunity to be angry. But I understand part of viewing the world as a lefty is not giving anything back in return other than saying you should be taxed so the government can give back. I love that. Or it made you think. If I said anything that made you think, yeah. Heaven forbid we make people think here. Hey, Thursday, I'm interviewing a Christian. Got one lined up. It's going to be good. I'm going to talk about the Shroud of Turin. Take care.